Good morning, Senior Pride here. Today I'm going to be talking about a hidden population worldwide that people don't really think about, and that is low-income baby boomers. We do exist. We're far more common than people realize, and the struggles that we deal with daily, the challenges, are important to recognize because they affect us all globally. Now, just as a reminder, the baby boom was kind of centered between 1946 and 64 with two sort of sub-generations in there. So for me, for example, I was born very late in 63. I'm in that Generation Jones group. And we know that the baby boom was really, it emerged post-World War II. It was a time of prosperity, rapid growth and change. And these babies, all these kids that were being born were like a symbol of progress in our world. They became many of them became the beneficiaries of expanding economies, technological innovation, and promises, quite frankly, of what some people would refer to as a welfare state, or a state that provided support as they aged. But there is, like I said, there's this significant subset that have lived their lives or have lived their later lives low income, and they are not recognized. And the challenges that we face tend to be overlooked publicly, and we don't tend to be seen. So I felt that it was important to talk about some of these struggles because it's not only had a profound impact on our socioeconomic status, it has a profound effect worldwide. As I said, it affects us globally. So first of all, these economic challenges and our invisibility are important to recognize. And one of the reasons that people don't talk about this is because the baby boom is associated with prosperity and wealth. So it obscures the disparities within this cohort, within the baby boomers. And but this is particularly true in regions where systemic inequality limits access to things like education, employment, and financial security. And it's particularly true in those cases that women are the victims of those responses. Now, what are some of the reasons? Well, one of them is an erosion of retirement security. That traditional three-legged stool of retirement that we think of, pensions, personal savings, and Social Security, it's collapsed for many low-income baby boomers. Globally, trends such as the decline of defined benefit pensions, stagnant wages, and inadequate government support have left many baby boomers unprepared for retirement. So, for example, in the United States, over 40% of baby boomers are expected to rely mostly or completely on Social Security. And as I've said in previous recordings, we're all 60 or older now. That's it. So we are closing in on retirement, or we are retired. Similarly, we see trends like this in the United Kingdom, where austerity measures have exacerbated the pension shortfalls. And in developing nations where informal labor systems offer no benefit or pension system. There was also the impact of the 2008 financial crisis, and I remember this painfully. I'm sure you do too. That Great Recession, it affected low-income baby boomers to a disproportionate degree. Many of us were at the peak of our job earning potential when the crisis hit, so you can see where that was going. There were job losses, declining home values. All of this wiped out savings, and it also forced many to delay retirement and take up gig work, which is at best precarious. In the emerging economies where financial safety nets are less robust, baby boomers may rely on their children for support, which perpetuates intergenerational poverty. Then there are the healthcare inequities that happen as we age in poverty. So we know that healthcare is like a cornerstone of quality of life, particularly as we age. And low-income baby boomers often face significant barriers to accessing healthcare, which results in worse outcomes as they age, which results in more income put into very necessary kinds of things, and they lose the ability to pay for things they need. So first of all, let's talk about unequal access to medical care. In both developed and developing nations, the privatization of healthcare has disproportionately hurt low-income populations. So, for example, in the United States, with rising out of cost medications and treatments, this forces many baby boomers to choose between basic healthcare and other basic necessities. In countries with universal healthcare systems, such as here in Canada or in Sweden, there are long wait times and regional disparities that, again, limit access for low-income individuals. There is also what we call or think of as the global burden of chronic disease. So illnesses like diabetes, heart disease, and arthritis are more prevalent among low-income populations, and that is because of things like poor nutrition and limited preventive care. So for low-income baby boomers, managing these conditions is both a financial and logistical challenge. In countries with limited healthcare infrastructure, aging individuals may forego treatment altogether, which leads to premature mortality and a reduced quality of life. There's also issues around social stigmatization when you're in poverty and mental health issues. So that societal narrative that we talk about boomers being a privileged generation really does ignore the lived experience of those of us at the margins. And because of this lack of awareness, these stereotypes and stigmas are perpetuated, which exacerbates mental health challenges among low-income boomers. For example, ageism and economic pressure, or prejudice, I guess you could call it. In many cultures, aging is viewed through a lens of diminishing utility. We're not as useful anymore. And that compounds the difficulties faced by low-income individuals. Stereotypes about baby boomers as spendthrift or resistant to change overshadow the reality that many have worked under difficult circumstances. The stigma alienates low-income boomers, making it harder for us to seek help and to advocate for policy changes. There's also the issue of rising mental health issues. Financial insecurity, social isolation, and declining physical health can contribute to mental health crises among low-income boomers. Depression and anxiety are particularly prevalent. They are exacerbated by the lack of affordable mental health services. And in many countries, these issues go untreated due to cultural taboos or prioritization of younger generations toward healthcare. Intergenerational consequences are important to recognize because they exist, and a lack of income will impact outcome for many generations. So we don't exist in isolation. So for instance, there's the financial strain on families. In certain cultures, for example in Asia or Africa, a financial burden of supporting aging parents falls on children. And this often forces younger generations to delay important milestones such as education, marriage, home ownership. In developed nations, adult children may provide financial assistance or housing for their older adults in the family, such as the parents, and this may strain them economically and affect their own abilities to move further ahead in their lives. There's also an issue of disrupted social mobility. The economic struggles of low-income baby boomers can trap families in cycles of poverty. Without those adequate resources to pass on, they leave their children and grandchildren with fewer opportunities for upward mobility. And this is especially pronounced in regions where wealth inequality is stark and social safety nets are weak. There's also the issue of shifting care responsibilities. As life expectancy increases, so does the need for long-term care. Because of the lack of affordable caregiving options, additional pressure is placed on family members, particularly female family members, who often are forced to shoulder the burden of this unpaid caregiving. And this has long-term implications for gender equality and workplace participation among women. There are global policy failures that must be addressed. Because low-income baby boomers are marginalized, we are able to observe just how systemic failures exist in addressing poverty, aging, and inequality. So there are inadequate social safety nets. Globally, governments have failed to adapt social safety nets to the realities of aging populations. Policies that prioritize economic growth over social welfare have left vulnerable many groups, including low-income boomers. So there's a lack of support, and for instance, the erosion of public housing programs in many places has led to rising homelessness among elderly populations in cities like Toronto, Vancouver, Edmonton, Los Angeles, Tokyo, Sao Paulo, so many places worldwide. There are labor market challenges. Many boomers remain in the labor market, out of necessity, but age discrimination shifts us toward gig work and limits opportunities. We need to increase policies to encourage flexible retirement or protect older workers from discrimination. And when these policies exist, they may be weak and they are often poorly enforced. There is a lack of awareness in development agendas. So international development efforts often focus on youth empowerment, poverty alleviation, overlooking the unique needs of people who are older and living in poverty. This perpetuates the invisibility of low-income boomers, and it needs to be addressed. It really does. We need to address it globally. What are some potential solutions, and how do we move forward? Well, I've already kind of hit on that, but I'd like to go into that a little more. First of all, we need to strengthen social safety nets. Governments who are at this time engaging in austerity and reducing the social safety nets, in fact, need to prioritize things like pensions, affordable housing, healthcare for aging populations. Universal basic income or targeted cash transfer programs could provide immediate relief for low-income boomers. We need to promote intergenerational solidarity. So programs that encourage collaboration between generations, such as co-housing initiatives or intergenerational mentorship, can alleviate financial and social pressures and foster a mutual understanding of experience. We need to raise awareness. Media and advocacy organizations must challenge stereotypes about boomers and highlight the diversity within this generation. Increased representation of low-income boomers in policy discussions can drive more equitable outcomes. We also need to expand lifelong learning opportunities. By investing in education and skill development for older adults, we can help low-income boomers remain economically active and socially engaged. This is particularly true for areas undergoing rapid technological change. Or the reality is that not recognizing or a lack of recognition of low-income boomers has had far-reaching consequences. It deepens inequality for this generation and creates challenges for future generations. If we address the systemic factors that contribute to marginalization, societies can create a more inclusive and equitable environment for all. The struggles of low-income baby boomers serve as a stark reminder of the importance of social solidarity and the need to prioritize vulnerable populations in policy and practice. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I ask that you hit subscribe and hit like. Please share. Please comment. I love to receive comments. I always respond, unless I've had maybe 2 offensive comments. That's it. So and I don't think the people directly meant to be that offensive. So please, I do respond. Please remember, to be senior is to be proud. Hugs.